Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated podcast, where we take animation seriously. I'm Beatriz Mourad, and today I'm joined by Michelle Anderer.
Hello.
And April Collins.
Hi.
Today we will be discussing the second episode of Fruits Basket, They're All Animals! Exclamation point. Because it's important to emphasize. Warning, spoilers for everything that has aired up to this point. Some of us have read the manga or have seen the previous anime, the 2001 anime, but we won't be spoiling anything from beyond episode 2. We're only going to be discussing this in episode 1. You can find out more about this podcast at overlyanimated.com. You can subscribe to us on iTunes at overlyanimated.com/iTunes, on Spotify, which is new. Check us out on Spotify, or on YouTube at youtube.com/overlyanimated. Okay. So give me your general thoughts. You guys weren't on the podcast for the first episode, so also if you want to give your thoughts on that one, feel free. Also, if you want to throw in your history with Fruits Basket, I know we all have our history with it, so you can just give me your general thoughts and go, Michelle.
Oh my god, this was I didn't know they were remaking Fruits Basket, and I found Fruits Basket later in life. Like, I saw the 2001 anime, like, maybe 2 or 3 years ago for the first time. But, like, this still felt like such a wonderful welcome back. Like, oh man, I haven't felt like that, like, you know, young teen girl thing in a while.
Yeah.
So I'm like in my late 20s now. I feel kind of old, but like it awakened something in me to watch this, and like all the music's wonderful, and you get to see so many boy tummies, and that's wonderful. And like, oh my god, I love this show so much. I'm so excited. Like, I'm way more excited than I anticipated. I'm like, oh, it's a reboot. Like, I don't know, maybe it'll be like halfway decent. But like, no, I'm so on board with this. And I heard, so like, I didn't read the manga, Beatriz, so I don't know. Was the anime not like did it not follow 100% the original manga? Because that's the selling point of this reboot, right? That it's like more true to the graphic novel.
Right. So basically, the 2001 anime was made and went into production while the manga was still in progress. So it had to, it's a different beast. Whereas with this one, it's a faithful adaptation to what the manga did. So while that one might have some filler episodes, maybe interprets characters differently because we just didn't have the source material just yet for them. And this one goes true to what the mangaka had envisioned. Whereas that one, because the manga wasn't done, had to do its own thing. But yeah. Did you like the second episode? Did you like beyond just like...
Yeah, like at first, like the first episode I was so high on, I got a little scared, and I was like, is it we're gonna drop down the way we kind of did with Promised Neverland? But no, I love the second episode too. And the thing I appreciated about the 2001 show is like you get such good characterization in this show, and they teach you actual good life lessons, and they spend a lot of time with Kyo being like, look, like, we know you haven't socialized with people in a while, but like it's really important to get out there and do your best, and like, yeah, you're gonna hurt people and people are gonna hurt you, but like that's what life is worth living for. You find out who you are through how you interact with people. And I was like, damn, like I forgot, but yeah, it's really good about teaching you how to be a better person.
I mean, it's funny. I feel like I was called out in that moment.
Yeah.
But even then, and I was like, that they told me this lesson, and I still felt called out at this age, at this point in time. But April, tell me, give me your general thoughts on this. I did read your episode 1 thoughts in the previous one, but if you want to give it with your own voice.
Yeah, so I super appreciate you doing that. And again, I apologize because I couldn't make the first episode podcast. But words could not describe, because I saw the first 2 episodes in the theater, and words could not describe like how happy it made me to be there. Like my favorite part too is that like everyone there like wanted to be there, and even though like I got the sense that like all of us kind of already knew like what was going on and everything like that. Like, we were all just, like, fully enjoying it. And then what was even crazier was like at the beginning of it, they had like interviews with the voice actors, like the Japanese voice actors, which was really like interesting because they even talked about like their history with like the series and everything like that. And like the girl who voices Toru, she like the series is as old as she is.
Oh my
so
goodness.
Wow.
Yeah.
Way to make me feel old.
Well, yeah, I know. I was like, wow, I feel really old. But then like at the same time, like she was like saying that she's like, wow, like I wish she's like I'm sad that like I didn't like have this like at an appropriate age, like when most everyone else did, because she loves it. And like she loves it so much, she's like, I'm as much of a fan as like everyone else is. And like she's just like, and like she talked about like they talked about like who their favorite characters were, and like they like talked about who they think they would be, and it was just a lot of fun, and it was just a super great atmosphere. I've seen the original series. I'm pretty sure I read all of the manga. And I like, as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, did you finish it? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I did. So I'm like second guessing myself, but it's like one of those. It's just one of those stories that, like, yeah, like it just made me feel so good. And as I said in like my email, that I'm really like impressed with like how it looks and how it feels, because I mentioned it being like crystal mooned, and I don't get that at all. Like it feels like it's the same series but like different. And it's interesting too because like like I watched it. I'm so old. I watched it like 15 plus years ago, even more than that. Wow. But like even now and like how old I am now, like I still feel like this super relates to me, and like it really speaks to me a whole lot. That being said, so glad that we're through the second episode, because the first and second episodes go perfectly together, and I'm sad that they didn't air them together like they did in the movie theater, because they sort of like they just like ridiculously play off each other. Like you go from the first episode straight into the second episode. And it's so much so that they might as well be one giant episode. Yeah. So I think that's like my only like real complaint, I guess, is that like they split them up, and I wish that they hadn't.
Gotcha. I like last week, I'm just, not only did I get full on nostalgia feels, but there's something about the humor and it actually happening live. Because, like, in the manga, you read it, and you're like, yes, this is funny. But then to actually see it happen, there's just this, they hit this very interesting humor in these episodes that I'm loving. And it's with very quick dialogue that if, like, with subs, it might get a little hard if you're not used to subs. But, like, it's I just really love it. I only have, like, a little complaint about the episode, which is sometimes just visually, I felt it got a little too dating sim-esque. And what I mean by that is, if you've ever played like a visual novel, visual novel, like one of those like Japanese games where they'll have like whatever. Sometimes the shots were very like, they could easily put like the dialogue box at the bottom and it would be like a game. Like the way that the guys are standing and looking at the camera.
I loved it. It was so
I know,
nice.
I'm like, I can't complain about them, because
Yeah,
dating sim games are great.
Like, again, like, not from being a teenager have I been so catered to that way. And it's very refreshing. I was so, like, especially, like, the theme song and then the ending. It was just, like, all these beautiful, carefully drawn shots of these men lounging around in different outfits. And, oh, wow, it's so good. It's perfect.
Maybe it's just like it's definitely like it's definitely like a subjective thing. Like I'm more of like, okay, if I wanted a Fruits Basket kind of visual novel, I would have wanted that. If it's an anime, I wanted a little bit more motion in certain scenes, a little bit more interesting shots. But that was my only thing, and it obviously is very subjective. But let's talk about that opening sequence, because we finally do get it in this episode. April, I don't know if it played for you in the beginning of the two episodes. Like I don't know how they split them up in the theater, but in the first episode of Fruits Basket, we didn't get the opening. We just got the ending. And then in this one, we finally do get the opening. So I want to hear your thoughts. Like, what do you guys think of this opening? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Give me your thoughts.
I think the opening is fine. So in the theater, they didn't give an opening or an ending. And they played like the episodes like straight into the other. Like, because I remember whenever like the first episode was like aired last week, or I guess it was 2 weeks ago. I was like, oh, I wonder where like the cutoff point was, because whenever I was like going to be on the podcast and then like write in my thoughts, I was like, oh, I should make sure like where the cutoff point is so that I don't like talk about the second episode and not even realize it. Right. Because they, like I said, like they literally like played it like it was all one episode, because like the episodes flow like so well into each other. Right. The opening, again, it's fine for what it is. It's not anything overly complicated, which is, I don't know, like usually with anime, I always expect the opening theme, or at least the opening sequence to be like super like, I don't know, crazy is the word that I want to use. Right. But
like action anime,
yeah, like over the top and everything. Well, even like in some, I'm gonna say dramas, like they're like super like over the top-ish, and this one's just very like calm. It's you know, and I think that kind of plays into like the theme of the show too. You know, it's sort of calm, even though like there's craziness happening and people are turning into animals. There are animals everywhere, but I didn't mind it so much. And then the ending, again, it's very like dating sim-esque. My always like my big issue with like opening and endings is whenever like they have characters that don't get introduced until later in the series.
Oh wow! And these are basically
it's like all the characters.
Yeah, it's all of the characters, and I know all of the characters, which is like fine for me. But as like I can imagine someone who's never seen like the show or isn't familiar with it being like, well, who is that person and who is that girl and what
gets
is
you excited?
Like, yeah,
like, ooh, I can't wait to get to this person.
Yeah, I wonder who they are.
How do they fit into this? Like, well, and what drives me even more crazy is whenever like, and I don't think the show did it, but whenever other shows like will put like a character in the opening or the ending, and then they end up like being nobody to the series, and you're like, how did you make it there?
Yeah. Michelle, what did you think of the opening?
When I first heard the opening, I was kind of like, oh, this is fine. But I went back and rewatched both episodes. And I think by the second time I rewatched the second episode, I was starting to really like it. And now I officially really like it because I've like listened to it on loop at work for a while.
Okay.
Like it's like poppy, but it's very well emoted. It's not too like gentle and soft. Like the lady really starts belting it out towards the end of like the full thing. And she has so many feels, and she seems like a cool lady. And you know, Taru's also a cool lady. And she seems to have lots of feelings. And I don't know. I liked that it didn't feel like too cutesy and too soft. Like it had like some soul to it, you know?
Gotcha.
And I really liked that. So I know some people feel like, you know, it's not my original song from the 2001 anime. Like that'll always be my top one. But I think it's definitely different, but I feel like it's different on purpose. And like the vibe it's going for feels very fitting for the show.
Gotcha.
So I approve.
Awesome. I mean, to me, it wasn't even like, for me, it wasn't that it was different from, again, I haven't seen the original anime version. I thought it was a little too slow. Like I've seen, and I don't mean in terms of like the action anime type of openings. I mean like I've seen like Kimi ni Toloke is like this great anime that has this really lovely opening and it's really sweet, but it's also like, you know, at least for the opening, I don't want to be put to sleep. Does that make sense? And I get that she's like, she belts out at the end, but it is like, it feels more like a ballad, and I wanted more of like a mellow pop song, if that makes sense.
That's fair.
You know, just like, you know, just give me a little bit more, I wanted a little more ampness, because I was like, it's Fruits Basket, and because in the ending, it is also similar in sort of pacing, and just in terms of tone, it's like, it's also very calm and mellow, so I was like, I wished there was a little bit more difference.
I wonder if, like, because with the like, I remember with the original, it was very, like, cutesy almost. And
right.
so I wonder if, like, in their attempts to sort of please, like, the manga artists, they were kind of like, you know what I mean? Like, a deal kind of had to be struck because, like, because, like, with the original anime, I remember everything just sort of being really conveyed as cutesy throughout until the end. And then, so I'm wondering if, like, they were just trying to avoid that tone. Because, I mean, this, you know, this is kind of a big deal. And this episode especially sort of talks on that, like, with the whole Soma family and, like, suppressing people's memories and, like, Akito being, like, emotionally abusive and things like that. So I wonder if, like they're just trying to establish a new tone with the series.
Right. No, totally. I totally get that. I totally get that. I will say though, one super positive thing is they're really like digging into this like Kyo's midriff thing, which I appreciate 100%.
Okay.
Oh my God.
It wasn't just like a one-time thing in like in the first couple of, it's like, no, you're gonna get this in every opening. You're just gonna get the midriff. And it's great. It's like amazing. But let's talk about Kyo, because the first episode we only got a very small taste of him. Now this is like his proper introduction. So I wanted to talk, like, what do you think of his character? Like, watching this episode, did you walk away thinking, yeah, this is my boy, this is my cat boy? Or did you think, oh God, can you not?
I mean, that's a really good and this is going to be interesting because you didn't see the first anime and I have not read the manga. Right. But Kyo in this episode read very different from what I remember about the 2001. No. I know there's the Team Yuki or Kyo question, but the reason I was Team Yuki for so long with the first anime is because Kyo comes off like way more abrasive and cocky and like kind of a jerk. And I was like, ew, like, no thanks. Like, I don't want the bad boy. Like, that's gross. And here he seems so much more empathetic because like he just gets beat on a lot. And there's that shot of him like with his head over his arms, like in the water. And you get a lot more shots of him just like feeling really like kind of frustrated and confused about how to, talk to Toru and how to have relationships and his frustration with being the cat and what that means for the Zodiac. So I feel like the show's trying a lot harder to, make us feel for him this early on. And I definitely don't remember getting quite that vibe from the first show.
I feel like the first show was very, like, Yuki favored. Like, the animes were like, we're Team Yuki. We don't care about Kyo. We're going to make this a Team Yuki show.
Everyone was Prince Yuki, even if you like, were on Kyo's side. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because, like, and also Yuki had, like, a female voice actor, and so like it's just there's just something very soft about him in the first and like he has a very masculine voice now, and that threw me a lot. But it's like, all right, no, I'll vibe with this, but like that was a huge shock to me. It was such a change.
Okay. April, what's your like first impression of Kyo? Like, you saw it all together, but when with Kyo, was it like what was your first? Do you like what you've seen so far with Kyo?
I do. I know, like, what is it? Like, he's much more relatable in this series versus the original one. And I think that's, like, really good for him, especially because, I mean, like Michelle was saying, like, Kyo was, like, he was so, abrasive in the first original series. And so I like him even, like, I was already a fan of him before, but I'm even, like, more so now because I'm like, wow, like, Kyo, we can relate to each other, and like I totally understand where you're coming from. And they do because like you guys have been preaching about like the characterization of all of the characters in this like series so far, and I think this episode is just like the best characterization of Kyo that you can do in the beginning of the series. Like, and it just makes me so much more excited to like learn more about him and to see like what more they decide to do with him, and of course like all the other characters as well. But like I'm totally into Kyo, even more so this series than I was before. So give me more Catboy.
Gotcha.
That's a good point.
I just want to say, like, he's my cat boy. I have adopted him. He's precious, and we should give him all the fish or things that cats love. So yeah, well, I agree. I'm really interested. I'm really surprised that the original anime was very, like, he was much more abrasive. I feel like they do a good job. I think my big thing with him is that I fear that if we don't see, and I haven't read the manga in a while, but if we don't see character development soon, like, there's only so many times you have to tell him, like, stop bursting out in rage. Like, there's only so many times you can tell him before it's like, okay, now you have to actually learn it and stuff. So as of right now, because it's early on, I'm like, oh, you precious boy. But, like, I'm scared in this kind of, because with Kyo and Toru's relationship, my big thing is if I don't see some development, this kind of dynamic might get old really quick. That's my big worry. It's too soon to tell, and I don't remember how long that lasted in the manga. But
I don't even remember.
I don't remember. But I feel like we're already making better progress.
Totally.
Oh no, totally.
Even in this episode, because, like, you mentioned, like, huge outbursts and everything like that, and that's all I can really remember from him before.
It's true. It's like
it was incredibly frustrating because you're like, oh my gosh, you know better, and you're like yelling at the screen as he's yelling at Toru,
and Toru's the most, like, moe, like, she's so good at cooking and clean, like, yelling at her should be, like, against the law. Like, she's the ultimate wife.
She's so precious.
She is. She needs all the hugs. But, like, the big thing too is that, like, in this episode, you can tell that he feels bad, and he like expresses that he feels bad for yelling at her and for having an outburst. And we, like, almost never got that originally.
I think the difference, right? Like, they're playing up, like, kind of not like the wounded angle of him, but just like his softer side, right?
Yeah.
Versus just, like, cocky abrasiveness, which is, like, much less attractive when that's all you get all the time.
I feel like if anyone's more aggressive this series, it's Yuki.
Yeah, basically,
sure.
yeah, very true, very true. And we'll get to that. But here's a question: have we ever seen like a proper male tsundere before?
Ew.
Like, have we seen like that guy, that person who's like can't, like, who wants to show affection but can't because they're awkward and refuse to, and they're kind of mean and stuff? I'm so used to seeing that from, like, a female character, that title is usually given to female characters. That's so interesting to see that with Kyo.
And I feel like it's a little different with Kyo, because just from what we see when he first tried to apologize, he, like, almost got there, and then he heard the other two, and it's like that, like, got his blood boiling because they know how to get under his skin kind of thing. But it's like if he was able to be with her alone for a long enough period of time, the words could come out and he wouldn't feel bad about it. I think he's just so inexperienced that it's just like he's gonna stumble a lot in the beginning, but I think he's fully capable of it.
Yeah. No,
I think
totally.
So. For sure. It even, like, what is it? Like, him, because Shigure mentions, you know, like, you have to be around people and you have to learn that. And so, like, you're going to get hurt and you're going to hurt people. And so I think that, like, even, like, him just, like, going to school is, like a huge deal for him, because he, like, didn't go to school last time around and was just like, I'm gonna just go train in the woods, like, bye.
Where are his parents is my question.
Yeah, Toru asked that, just like, so is, like, no adult live in this house with these guys? Like, that's weird.
Technically, Shigure is an adult. So.
Technically, he is his guardian. Technically. But no, you're right. And also, he's used to just being around boys. He's not used to, like, having the opposite sex around. And he's been taught to fear that. He's going to give the family secret away. So it's like, so I understand the awkwardness, and I don't expect the awkwardness to be solved. But I'm just like, if we get to, like, I don't know if this is going to be, like, a 52 episode thing. I don't remember if they gave, like, the total. They just said that they were adapting the entire manga. But if we get to, like, say, episode 35, it's like, by episode 35, he should have shown some progress, is all I'm saying.
All right, putting it on the board now. 35.
I I'm so glad they're doing the whole thing because the first one totally just dropped off to the point where like I didn't even know who Toru was going to hook up with at the end, and I had to like search online to find out, and I was very shocked because of things. But I mean, so that's exciting. I honestly don't know what's going to happen like halfway through it in that case because
I'm so excited for you to find out.
Stopped. Yeah,
I'm so excited for you to find out.
I wonder what's fake now and what's real. Like what?
What's fake and what's real?
What did they put in that was in the story or not? I don't know.
Okay, well let's talk about his relationship with Yuki, which I think it's that like kind of interaction. Those interactions they have with each other are so crucial to me for Yuki's character, not so much for Kyo's character, because you can see the way his dynamic with Toru, you can kind of see with Shigure, you can see a lot of his colors with them. But with Yuki, he shows like usually he's very calm. It's only with Kyo that he shows his kind of, or when it's about Kyo that he shows this kind of edge to him, which is so like we don't often see with like the prince character who's usually just expressionless and kind and whatever. It's like this is when Yuki gets a lot more personality is through his dynamic with Kyo. So I was just curious how you guys have seen from these episodes. What do you think of how the show has set up their relationship and what they've done so far? What do you think? Do you like it? Do you think tell me. What do you think?
I feel like, and I like briefly talked about it, but I feel like there's been a lot of like manipulation. And it almost seems like Yuki's feelings towards Kyo are learned and not necessarily like natural for him. And so because, you know, they're the Zodiac, and in the story, like it's Yuki's fault that like Kyo doesn't get, like the cat isn't a part of the family. So, and like even like with that small like, you know, the story that I guess it shares, I don't know if he tells that story, well, he doesn't tell that story to Toru, but when he relives that memory, like Akito's like super like mean, and he, you know, like if people would see that, then they would freak out and they would be disgusted. And so like even just like watching that like conversation leads me to believe that it's not Yuki's fault that he doesn't like Kyo. I think that that's learned, and that was like thrust upon him. Like, you're the rat, you have to hate him. Like, you don't get a choice kind of situation. You have to be better than him. Like, you have to train harder or be nicer or whatever. And so I think like that's the impression that I get from this episode because a lot of the times he's just like irrationally mad at someone. And when you're irrationally mad at someone, it's usually for like no good reason that you've been given like somewhere else. Right.
Gotcha. What about you, Michelle? Do you think they've set up this kind of the emotional abuse that they've experienced? They've set up kind of the current situation with their relationship.
Oh, totally. I mean, like, kind of what April's saying, I feel like both Kyo and Yuki have inherited these kind of roles based on their zodiac signs, right? But for Kyo, it's like a little more complicated because, like, is he officially a member of the zodiac, or like, no, because of the banquet thing? Like, he's like kind of counts, but not really.
Right. No, yeah. He and Yuki is like multiple times called him like an outsider. And he has said
right.
And he keeps telling him like, I don't understand why you want to be part of this family. I'm so desperate to get out, which is such an interesting dynamic.
That is very interesting. And that kind of like leads credence to this idea that like maybe part of the reason Yuki's so hard on Kyo is because he resents everything Kyo wants out of the Soma family. Like, he wants to be a part of it. He wants to have this bigger role. And Yuki is like trying to push himself as far away from it as possible for whatever reason we don't know yet. But I mean, that's why he didn't want to go to the boys' school, right? Because like that was a special school for special zodiac children. Apparently, he's like, no, I don't want that.
Well,
I want a more normal life.
It was handpicked by Akito,
right? And he's like, no, I'm not about that. I don't know why you even want to go there, Kyo. So I think like partially his resentment for Kyo could be that he's like, oh, like you're so stupid wanting to be closer to the family when I'm trying to get away. But also, I think jealousy. It is. I think it's just like he's projecting his own kind of internal conflict of how he feels about the family onto Kyo's desperation to get in.
Right.
Like, that doesn't sit right with him. So he's like, you're stupid for wanting that. But I think it's like half that, but half what April's saying, where, yeah, he has inherited this behavior of expectation of like, oh, yeah, we're mortal enemies. This is just how it is. We'll never be friends. I hate you. Also, you're dumb.
Have to add that. That's a very important thing to add.
It's really interesting. Right? Because, like you're saying, like, otherwise he'd just be this nice prince character with, like, nothing interesting about him. But because he has this edge and this internal conflict about the Zodiac family, like, that's so much more interesting. Like, it makes Yuki a way more fascinating character who has, like, actual stakes now.
Yeah, I agree. What do you guys think of Akito, since we've already mentioned him? He seems very creepy. Like, and the way he's being framed to us, he seems to be like the big villain of, if we're gonna use the term villain, of this story. What do you think? And also, his voice is very young, which makes me think like he's younger
even his
than
character design. It looks young, so like he
definitely
just
not an old man.
No, definitely not an old man, and it just seems like interesting that like everyone like almost fears him.
Right.
It like is the sense, and they sort of like give it that ominous tone whenever like they talk about him too. Like, well, what does Akito say?
Exactly.
Yeah, like
for her. Yeah. Wipe Toru's memory, so he has a lot of influence and power, and it's his decision.
Also, no one is up to any good whenever they're like, yeah, we're gonna wipe people's memories. Like, okay, cool.
Yes, you are disgusting. Who would want to be friends with the rat child? That's so harsh, and he says it like it's nothing.
Yeah, like so, like totally flat, like emotionless. Like, well, like who would want to be friends with you? And everything like that. And then it's even more suspicious because, like, they sort of set it up that everyone who finds out the secret has that memory wiped. But for whatever reason, Toru gets to keep her memory. And that's even more strange because, like, she is a female and the rest of them are clearly males. So, like, you're, like, asking for a disaster.
Yeah.
And you like, something, right? He's like, that sounds almost too good to be true.
Right. He's like, and what I love about Yuki is that he's immediately like defensive for Toru. Like, he doesn't care about them. He's just like, do not bring her into this. Like, what is he cannot use her. Like, she cannot become his puppet. Like, that's not gonna work. It's not gonna fly. Which I adore. But speaking of Yuki and learning about this stuff and thinking he's disgusting, there is this scene with him and Toru at school. And like he kind of after school he calls her back into the classroom. Calls her back in. It's as if he's a teacher. No, he's just he calls her, he's like, hey, we need to talk. And then he's like, yo, like, you're not gonna tell anybody, right? And it's a real, there's a lot of things that happen in this scene. We learn a lot of things. Like, one, like, I think this is when we learn about the suppression. This is when we get, like, the flashback to his childhood and what goes on. But there's a moment where he kind of, like traps Toru in his arms. And I know this is a thing in Japan. Like, I know this is, like, seen as, like, a thing that's romantic. Yeah. Very similarly, there's, like, a thing where people just, like, someone just grabs someone's, like, wrist and drags them somewhere, and, like, that's seen as romantic. And it's, like, fine. That's fine. It just seemed a little bit aggressive to me, and I'll tell you why. It's because Toru flinches. Like, she flinches as if she's gonna get hurt. And I'm just like, what is it? I don't know. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Am I being too like touchy about this, or like did you feel uncomfortable?
I was gonna say, I think the thing that makes it also seem aggressive too is because like these characters are not presented like that they're romantic interests.
Right.
So, like, if, like, we had previously seen, like, them being, like, kind of cutesy and sweet and flirty, or maybe had some, like, internal monologue.
We did see that kind of with, like, the episode, in the first episode when he's like, don't tie herself out, and she's mentioned before she's blushed.
Yeah.
She's mentioned. There is some romantic stuff. Seeds planted.
I was gonna say, I think that comes more so from like a caring perspective than like a I love you and I want to be with you perspective.
Right.
And so I think that like because there's not that like precedent of them being like romantically involved with each other, then like it for sure comes off aggressive, especially because Toru does flinch. But the other thing too is that I just imagine that Toru is so innocent that she has never been in that situation before too. And I think even if she was like they were romantically involved, I still think she would have flinched. But I do agree that it feels a little bit aggressive, and I think it's just because like those elements are missing from the scene.
Right, totally. What about you, Michelle? Did you feel anything from this?
I guess I kind of initially gave it a pass, but the flinch probably also didn't register for me. I probably bought into it like a little more just because I'm like along for this crazy like shipping nonsense ride. But I do think like that's a valid point, and I do think that's the kind of thing where your mileage can definitely vary. And if it feels like not great, that's pretty valid because like it really depends on who you are. And like in general, it's not good to trap people against a wall no matter your relationship unless you ask them politely if they'd be interested in that.
Trap me in your arms.
Yeah.
Well, continuing this kind of consent conversation, Toru does give her consent. She's like, look, if you want to wipe my memories, like, that's okay. Which I appreciate. I'm like, okay, yeah, like, because April, I think you mentioned it. It is like, you have suppression of memories. It's like an all-boy crew at the moment. Like, it's like, that's a question for that's could potentially be a very disastrous situation. And the fact that Yuki tells Toru what's going on, what's gonna happen, or whatever, and she's like, you know what, that's okay. Like, I won't like it, but like, I understand why you have to do it, and I give you the right to do it. Which I think is a very important thing that they put in there.
Yes, I think that says a lot about her character. The fact that she understands, because in any other anime, she would have like fought tooth and nail, like, what? I don't want to have my memory wiped, like, and like, you know, I don't want to use the word whine about it, but like, you know, just generally upset about it. But like the fact that she's just so understanding, and she's like, you know, I totally understand. And then like to top it off, she's like, hey, even if they do wipe my memory, like, do you promise you'll still be my friend?
Yeah,
like,
oh my God, that is so pure.
And, like, yeah, exactly, like so innocent. Like, you know, like, promise you'll still be my friend. And Yuki agrees to that too, which is even like more sweet. Like, he could have just been like, I don't know if that's possible kind of thing. Or he could have been really cold in that moment, and he wasn't. Like, I think he really appreciated like her being understanding, and then of course her like even more so being like, let's still be friends, even if you like, I don't remember anything about us. Like,
yeah. What I love about Toru is that often we see like the words innocent and pure tied with like naivete. We often see that like but she's a very mature character. Like she's she's emotionally very intelligent and mature and understands. She isn't a child. Well, she is a child, but like she isn't immature just because she is pure and innocent. Innocence doesn't relate to immaturity, and that's kind of what I love about her.
She's just very genuine, right? Like, it doesn't come from, like you're saying, like, it's not that she isn't experienced or doesn't understand like big concepts like that. It's that she really means it when she says it, and that's what makes a huge difference in people.
Yeah. And she's been through like so much, and like the characterization of her only helps that, because like she, you know, like she's suffered like so much loss, and then, you know, like she works, she's like putting herself through school essentially, and so that just sort of like gives her, it sounds bad, but like it gives her the right to like be, you know, like to have that too, and it comes off like so much better, like versus like like if she was like living with her grandparents and just decided she wanted to move out and like, oh my gosh, she has to get a job, like that's not fun, it's not relatable, it's, you know, it just makes for a better character.
Yeah, totally. And I love how that scene, even with my gripes about it, that scene does so much, because not only do we get that kind of internal like disgust that Yuki has with himself, but we meet, and like the emotional abuse that he had growing up from Akito, we get the immediate kind of, no, he's wrong. Because Toru proves him wrong without even knowing it. She's like, I'm gonna tie your necktie.
Walls.
Like, and she doesn't even realize, and that's what I love about her, is that she doesn't even realize the healing she's providing by just being a kind human being. Like, and she doesn't realize the impact that the impact her positivity is having on others. And it's just like, I just love Toru so much.
This family needs her.
They really so much.
They need her love.
Yeah. They just she needs to give them all the hugs and everything, and
well, maybe not hugs, because
I do mean the hugs, because I love her reactions to it. She always feels so bad. She's like, I'm sorry. It's just it was just instinctual, and it's like that's what happens. But speaking of kind of like this whole like getting a hug from the opposite sex doesn't, like, it turns you. Is it a hug that turns them, right? That's what.
Yeah, I think it specifically has to be a hug, because we've seen them touch each other in non-hug ways.
I think it's like a percentage of body touching kind of thing, because like they can like sort of like touch like briefly, it almost seems, but like I feel like if it's like an extended period of time and like so much like skin to skin contact or whatever it is, like body to body warmth, then it turns them. So
gotcha, because I think about when Kyo goes to school, he puts a girl in a chokehold, and I'm like, that's kind of a hug.
That's not enough touching.
Not enough body on body, I guess, for it to count.
I guess it's just, you know, it was interesting. And of course, Kyo would. Of course he would. And I like how the girl's like, is no one gonna mention that he shouldn't be doing that to me?
Right.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, wow, he jumped 3 stories and didn't get hurt. And she's like, why is he being so mean? I kind of love that.
They're just ignoring her.
Yeah. They're like, shush. It's great. But yeah, that was like really fun. But we do get like this kind of not parallel, but like to counter the Yuki Toru scene. We do get a scene with Toru and Kyo at the end where she's walking home from, I think she's walking home from school from like responsibilities she had to do.
She's walking home from work.
Or from work.
From the work.
And she's walking home from work, and then they have this kind of lovely little thing where
she whacks him with her bag.
Quote unquote apologizes.
So funny. I love when she whacks him with the bag and he gets up immediately to just leave.
No.
And she's just like,
walk away in the woods.
No, and she's like, no, I just
for
thought
putting
you
that in her head.
And
she's like, I'm sorry, I just thought you were a pervert. And he's
like,
reaction
what?
and the voice actor is so funny and the delivery.
Yeah, it's great. And I also love that she kind of confesses to him in a way where she's like, you don't understand, I love the cat. I've always wanted to be a cat.
And he's like, what do I do with this? So he's just like, cat sucks. You don't want the cat, man. Like, that's his reaction.
I love that they like kind of flash back to his previous conversation with Shigure, where it's funny how he equates someone saying they like the cat to
I love you.
To I love you, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like very big jump. But it's like, that's, of course he would think that. He doesn't have experience with people. So like, it just reminds you that he's so emotionally starved. Like he's starving for affection. And he's just like, here's a girl who's like willing to just give you all the affection. And he's just not used to it. And it's just so sweet. And again, another example of why Toru is so adorable and amazing. But yeah, so tell me right now.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, like, Toru is really good for for Kyo, but I'd also say Shigure is also like the dad he needs right now to bestow wisdom, because Shigure's also on his side. Like, he wants him to get out there and make friends and do better. And I like this balance of, like, it's not all on Toru to provide like this sustaining positivity. Like, he's got people rooting for him besides her, and I think that's important too. Like, he needs a community, not just one person.
Oh no,
and I appreciate the show for that.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. Like, absolutely, I agree with that. And it's kind of like he's being, I don't know, because also, but we don't know what to think about Shigure, because he's also like the one who talked to Akito and stuff. So I was just like, I don't know where you stand in all this.
I feel like he's doing his best to be like the median in the situation.
He's trying to be an adult.
He's
things. Well, and I think he understands the struggle that like Yuki and Kyo are going through more so than Akito would, especially given like what we've seen of like the Soma household, and it just seems like it's very aggressive. And so Shigure is like, okay, like, you know, Yuki's the prince, so what if like he leaves the house, but he's under my care.
Yeah.
Like,
he left with him. He did leave with Yuki,
Mm-hmm.
which should be worth noting. Like, he didn't let Yuki go on his own.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And I think that says a lot about his character too. And I feel like even though like he was the one who had the conversation with Akito and about like Toru, I feel like he wouldn't like he would still try and keep Toru's interests in mind, and like look out for her as well. And he has like, he's caring, but in his own way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He's still kind of silly sometimes, which I love about him.
I love it.
We've seen him
look out
serious.
For those perverts. What?
Yeah.
No, yeah, I think
the bandage, so he has a soft spot too.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think one of my favorite moments of the episode, my favorite like comedic beats is when he's like about to eat, and then he goes, "Oh, you know, Kyo's movie is transferring to your school," and then Yuki's just like, "Get out."
Yeah, he's those winter background.
Yeah,
ice cold.
Yeah, he's like, "You're not welcome anymore," which is great. But yeah,
you mad?
Is there any kind of to close out this discussion? Is there any kind of additional things you want to mention about the episode before we end?
I like that Toru has two amazing lady friends with very distinct personalities.
Oh my god!
Right?
Okay.
Her lady friends are my life.
Oh my god! Yes, yay, ladies.
She's amazing. They're a couple. Like, her friends are a couple. They're like Toru's parents. Like, they're just like, we love you. We're supportive. Like, they're just obviously. And just like when she's just sending bad vibes to people, it's the greatest thing. And I love how they animate that. How they don't even
around.
And how they don't even like, I like how they draw her face when she does that. I like how they make her glide. They don't make her like walk. They make her glide, which is a great touch. And she just continues to be like the most amazing, incredible character of the series. So there, I said it. Don't at me. But yeah, April, do you have any final thoughts?
No, not really. Just that I continue to just be so excited about this series, and the first 2 episodes have been great. I fully enjoy them, and I am ready for more. Like, can it be Friday now?
Yes, please.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm excited because I feel like we're done with the setup. We're like, this was the setup. These were the setup episodes, and now we're like, okay, now we now know the dynamic of the household, like at least of like the Yuki, Shigure, Toru, Kyo household. And we know the friends, we know the situation. Now we just kind of move on with the plot, which is exciting.
See where we go from here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you can find out all the info on this podcast at overlyanimated.com. You can join us on Discord to text chat about animation at overlyanimated.com/Discord. Support us via Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to all our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, James, aka Ironwood. And thanks as always to our Patreon executive producers, John, Ryan, Steve, Alex, Beatrice, and Hugh. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.